Listen. Right now, in this very moment, you're fighting a war you don't even know you're losing. Every morning, you wake up and reach for your phone before your feet touch the ground. Every evening, you collapse into distraction, scrolling through other people's lives while yours quietly slips away. You tell yourself tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow you'll start. Tomorrow you'll be the person you promised yourself you'd become. But tomorrow never comes, does it? Because you've become addicted to something so subtle, so comfortable, so perfectly designed to keep you weak, that you don't even recognize it as your enemy. You're addicted to comfort. And that addiction is killing everything inside you that once wanted to be great. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote these words in his private journal. You could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow. Think about that. The Emperor of Rome, commanding legions, ruling an empire, and he knew the same truth you're avoiding right now. The enemy isn't out there. The enemy is the voice that whispers, just 5 more minutes, just 1 more episode, just tomorrow. You deserve to rest. That voice sounds like compassion, but it's poison. It's the voice of comfort, and comfort is the slow death of everything you could become. Look around you. Look at the world you're living in. We have more convenience than any generation in human history, and we're more miserable than ever. We have instant food, instant entertainment, instant validation, instant everything, and we're dying inside from the emptiness of it all. Because here's what no one wants to tell you. Comfort is not peace. Ease is not happiness. Convenience is not freedom. You think you're choosing rest, but you're choosing decay. You think you're being kind to yourself, but you're being cruel. Because every time you choose the easy path, you're voting against the person you want to become. Every time you hit snooze, every time you skip the workout, every time you choose the couch over the uncomfortable work that would change your life, you're training yourself to be weak. And weakness becomes a habit. Comfort becomes a cage. And one day you wake up and realize you've spent years building a prison so comfortable, you forgot you were trapped. But not today. Today, something changes. Today, you feel it, don't you? That ancient fire that's been smoldering beneath all the distractions and all the excuses. That warrior spirit that civilization tried to make you forget. It's still there. Buried, maybe. Covered over with years of soft living and easy choices. But it's there. And if you're still listening to these words right now, if something inside you hasn't already clicked away to find another comfortable distraction, then maybe, just maybe, you're ready to remember who you really are. Now let me be clear about something. This message is not for everyone. Most people will hear these words and feel uncomfortable, and they'll leave. They'll go back to their scrolling, their comfort, their slow surrender. And that's fine. That's their choice. But this message, these ancient truths I'm about to share with you, they're for the few. They're for the ones who know deep in their bones that they were meant for something more than this. They're for the ones who look in the mirror and see potential rotting away under layers of wasted time. They're for the warriors who got soft, the dreamers who got distracted, the strong ones who forgot their strength. If that fire still burns inside you, even just an ember, even just a spark beneath all that ash, then stay with me. Because in this video, you're going to learn the 7 Stoic laws that will break you free from the addiction to comfort. These aren't gentle suggestions. These aren't life hacks or quick tips. These are ancient truths that built empires, that forged philosophers into warriors, that transformed slaves into some of the wisest men who ever lived. These laws demand everything from you. They will make you uncomfortable. They will challenge every soft habit you've built. But they will also set you free. They will wake you up. They will remind you what it feels like to be truly alive. So here's your choice. Keep listening and commit to the path, or leave now and stay comfortable. But know this, if you leave, nothing changes. Tomorrow, you wake up the same person, trapped in the same cycle, wondering why life feels so empty. But if you stay, if you really hear what I'm about to tell you and you act on it, then today marks the line. Today, you look back years from now and say, that was the day. That was when I stopped being comfortable and started being free. Number 1, discomfort is the forge. Comfort is the rust. You know what the problem is? You think comfort is the reward for hard work. You think that if you just get through this week, this month, this year, then you can finally relax. You can finally take it easy. You can finally stop pushing yourself so hard. But here's what the Stoics understood that we've forgotten. Comfort isn't the destination. Comfort is the trap. Every single thing you want in life, every quality you admire, every strength you wish you had, it all lives on the other side of discomfort. Courage doesn't come from safety. Discipline doesn't come from ease. Character doesn't come from comfort. Seneca said it perfectly. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. But we live in a world that has declared war on difficulty. We've designed our entire civilization to eliminate discomfort. Cold, adjust the thermostat. Hungry, order delivery. Bored, infinite entertainment. Lonely, digital connection. Challenged, quit and find something easier. We've removed every friction, smoothed every rough edge, and we wonder why we feel so weak. We wonder why nothing feels meaningful anymore. It's because meaning comes from struggle. Purpose comes from pushing through what's hard. Think about the last time you felt truly proud of yourself. Not the fake pride of social media validation. Real pride. The kind that sits quiet in your chest and doesn't need anyone else to know about it. I guarantee you, that moment came after discomfort. After you did something hard. After you pushed through when you wanted to quit. That's the truth no one wants to hear. The best version of you lives in the place you least want to go. But here's what you do instead. You wake up, and your bed is so comfortable, so warm, so perfectly designed to keep you trapped, and you lie there, negotiating with yourself. Just 5 more minutes. You've been working hard. You deserve rest. That's the voice of comfort speaking, and it sounds so reasonable. But it's lying to you. Because what you actually deserve is the person you could become if you got up right now and did the hard thing. You don't need more rest. You need more discipline. You don't need more comfort. You need more challenge. The Stoics practiced something they called voluntary discomfort. Marcus Aurelius, who slept on the finest beds in Rome, would sometimes sleep on the floor. Seneca, who had access to the greatest feasts, would deliberately eat simple food and drink only water. Not because they hated pleasure, but because they understood that the body grows weak when it's given everything it wants. The spirit grows soft when it never faces resistance. They trained themselves to be comfortable with discomfort, so that when life inevitably brought real hardship, they were ready. What are you doing? Are you training yourself for strength or for weakness? Because every day you're training. Every morning when that alarm goes off and you choose to hit snooze, you're training yourself to quit. Every time you skip the workout because you don't feel like it, you're training yourself to follow feelings instead of commitments. Every time you choose the easy path, the comfortable choice, the path of least resistance, you're building habits of surrender. And these habits, they compound. They build on each other. And one day, you look up and realize you've trained yourself to be a person who can't do hard things anymore. A person who crumbles at the first sign of difficulty. A person who has forgotten how strong they once were. But it goes the other way too. Every time you choose discomfort, you're building a different person. Every cold shower, every early morning, every moment you do what you said you'd do, even when you don't want to. You're forging discipline. You're building a version of yourself who doesn't need to feel motivated, who doesn't need perfect conditions, who doesn't need to be comfortable to take action. And that person, that's who you want to be. That's the warrior underneath all the softness. So here's what you do starting today. You seek discomfort. Not stupidly, not recklessly, but deliberately. You take cold showers even when hot water is available. You train even when you're tired. You wake up early even when your bed feels perfect. You sit with boredom instead of reaching for your phone. You do the hard conversation instead of avoiding it. You face the uncomfortable truth instead of hiding from it. Not because you enjoy suffering, but because you know that on the other side of every discomfort is growth. And growth is the only thing that makes life feel meaningful. Type this below if you're ready. I choose discomfort over decay. Number 2, your emotions are visitors, not masters. Let me ask you something. How many decisions did you make yesterday based on how you felt? How many times did you do something or not do something simply because you didn't feel like it? You didn't feel motivated. You didn't feel energized. You didn't feel inspired. So you didn't do it. And then you wonder why your life looks the same year after year. It's because you're letting your emotions run your life. And emotions, they're the worst possible leaders. They change every hour. They're influenced by your sleep, your blood sugar, the weather, a comment someone made 3 days ago. They're chaos, and you're putting them in charge of your destiny. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of the greatest philosophers in history, taught this. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Notice, he didn't say how you feel about it. He said how you react, because he understood something fundamental. You cannot control your feelings, but you can control your response to them. You cannot stop anxiety from visiting, but you can choose not to open the door and invite it to stay. You cannot prevent anger from arising, but you can choose not to let it drive your actions. Think about it. When you're scared, fear tells you to run. When you're angry, rage tells you to attack. When you're sad, sorrow tells you to withdraw. When you're lazy, comfort tells you to quit. Your emotions, every single one of them, they're designed for survival in a world that no longer exists. They're ancient mechanisms, hardwired for threats that aren't there anymore. And if you let them rule you, if you let every feeling dictate your actions, then you're not living your life. You're just reacting. You're just being pulled in every direction by forces you don't control. But here's what most people do. They treat their emotions like facts. I feel like a failure, so I must be a failure. I don't feel motivated, so I can't take action. I feel overwhelmed, so I should give up. No, your feelings are not facts. They're feedback, maybe. They're data points sometimes. But they're not truth. And they're definitely not orders you have to follow. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization. They would imagine losing everything they had. Not to be morbid, but to train their emotional response. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself every morning that everyone he loved could die today. Not because he was depressed, but because he was preparing his mind. He was training himself not to be destroyed by emotion. He was practicing sovereignty over his inner world, because he understood that a man who is controlled by his emotions is not free. He's a slave to every passing feeling, every shift in circumstance. You need to understand this. Discipline is not about feeling like doing things. It's about doing things regardless of how you feel. The warrior doesn't wait to feel brave before he enters the battle. The writer doesn't wait to feel inspired before she writes. The entrepreneur doesn't wait to feel confident before he takes action. They act, and then the feelings follow. Or they don't, and it doesn't matter, because they're not children who need to feel good before they can function. They're adults who have learned that feelings are temporary, but character is built through consistency. Here's your test. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, you're going to feel a powerful desire to stay in bed. Your body is going to produce every argument, every rationalization, every feeling that supports hitting snooze. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can listen to the feeling and stay comfortable, or you can acknowledge the feeling, thank it for its input, and get up anyway, because you're not ruled by feelings anymore. You're ruled by principles. You're ruled by the commitments you made to yourself when you were thinking clearly. You're ruled by the person you're becoming, not the person who just wants to sleep 5 more minutes. And this applies to everything. When you're anxious about starting that project, you start anyway. When you're angry at someone, you pause before reacting. When you're craving junk food, you eat what serves your goals. When you're afraid of failure, you take action anyway. When you're sad and want to isolate, you reach out. When you're feeling weak and want to quit, you push through one more rep, one more hour, one more day. Not because you're suppressing emotions, but because you're no longer controlled by them. This is mastery. This is freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you feel like doing. That's slavery to impulse. Real freedom is the power to do what you know is right regardless of what you feel. It's the ability to sit with discomfort, with anxiety, with boredom, with fear, and still take the action that aligns with your values. That's power. That's sovereignty. That's what the Stoics called eudaimonia, the good life, the flourishing life, the life of a free person. So starting now, you're going to practice observation. When an emotion comes, you're going to notice it. You're going to name it. There's anxiety. There's anger. There's fear. You're going to see it as something separate from you, because you are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them. You are the one who observes them. And from that place of observation, you have power. You have choice. You're no longer a puppet being pulled by every string of feeling. You're the master of your inner world. Comment below, I master my emotions. They don't master me. Number 3, control only what you can control. Surrender everything else. You're exhausted. You know why? Because you're trying to control the entire universe. You're trying to control what people think about you. You're trying to control the weather, the traffic, the economy, your past, other people's opinions, the future outcomes you can't guarantee. You're spending all your energy, all your mental bandwidth, all your emotional capacity on things that are completely beyond your power. And it's destroying you. This is the heart of Stoic philosophy. Epictetus breaks it down so simply it's almost offensive. Some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. That's it. That's the foundation of everything. And he says that our happiness, our peace, our power, it all comes from understanding this distinction. What's up to you? Your thoughts, your intentions, your effort, your response, your character. That's it. Everything else, not up to you, not your responsibility, not worth your worry. But you don't live like this, do you? You worry about whether people will like your work. That's not up to you. You stress about whether you'll get the job. Not up to you. You anxiety about whether your relationship will last. Partially not up to you. You agonize over whether you'll succeed. Not entirely up to you. And so you spend your days consumed by things you cannot control, and you neglect the one thing you absolutely can: your own thoughts, choices, and actions in this present moment. Marcus Aurelius writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was the emperor. If anyone could control external events, it was him. And even he knew, especially he knew, that the only real control he had was internal. The only domain where he had absolute power was his own mind, his own character, his own response to whatever life brought him. Think about how much energy you waste on things you can't control. Someone cut you off in traffic, and you're angry for the next hour. That person is long gone. They don't even know you exist, but you're giving them an hour of your life, an hour of your peace. Someone left a negative comment on your post, and you can't stop thinking about it. You're letting one person, one stranger, one opinion poison your entire day. Your past keeps haunting you. You replay conversations, mistakes, moments you wish you could change, but you can't. It's done. It's gone. And you're giving it power over your present. Here's what the Stoics practiced. Radical acceptance of external events combined with radical responsibility for internal response. A storm destroys your crops? You can't control that, but you can control whether you become bitter or whether you rebuild. Someone betrays you? You can't control their character, but you can control whether you let it destroy your peace or whether you learn and move forward. You work hard and still fail. You can't always control outcomes, but you can control whether you try again or give up. This isn't about being passive. This isn't about not caring. This is about strategic deployment of your limited energy. You only have so much mental and emotional capacity. Every minute you spend worrying about what you can't control is a minute stolen from what you can. Every moment of anxiety about the future is a moment you're not present in the now. Every thought about what someone else thinks is a thought not spent on who you're becoming. So here's the practice. When something happens, when something bothers you, when something makes you anxious, ask yourself, can I control this? Be honest, really honest. If the answer is no, then your job is to accept it and redirect your energy to what you can control. Someone doesn't like you? Can't control that. Control how much energy you give to caring about it. Didn't get the promotion? Can't control that decision. Control how you respond. Do you give up or get better? Market crashed and your investments are down. Can't control the market. control your reaction, panic or patience. And for the things you can control, stop making excuses. You can control whether you get up when the alarm goes off. You can control what you eat. You can control whether you exercise. You can control whether you do the work you committed to. You can control your effort, your consistency, your discipline. You can control whether you treat people with respect. You can control whether you keep your word. You can control whether you show up every day and do your best. So stop worrying about results and start controlling your inputs. This is where your power lives. Not in outcomes, not in other people's responses, not in perfect circumstances. Your power lives in the 6 inches between your ears, in the daily choices you make, in the character you build through consistent action. When you fully grasp this, when you really embody it, something incredible happens. You stop being a victim. You stop feeling helpless. You stop waiting for the world to change so you can be happy, because your happiness, your peace, your strength, it's not dependent on external conditions anymore. It's dependent on you, and that's the only person you can control. The beautiful paradox is this: when you stop trying to control everything and focus only on what you can control, you actually have more influence in the world, because you're not scattered, you're not diffused, you're focused. Your energy is concentrated on the things that actually matter, the things where your effort makes a difference. And that concentrated effort, that's what changes things. That's what builds the life you want. Write this below. I control my response, not my circumstances. Number 4. Time is bleeding out. Spend it like you're dying because you are. Listen to me carefully. You're going to die. Maybe in 50 years. Maybe in 5. Maybe tomorrow. You don't know. And you're living like you have forever. You're spending hours on things that don't matter. You're putting off the important work. You're delaying the difficult conversations. You're postponing your dreams. You're scrolling. You're binge-watching. You're procrastinating. You're wasting days like they're infinite. And they're not. Every day that passes is gone forever. Every hour you spend on nothing is an hour of your life you'll never get back. And you know this, but you're not living like you know it. Marcus Aurelius, facing death, knowing his mortality intimately, wrote, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." That's memento mori. Remember you will die, not to be morbid, not to be depressed, but to wake up, to stop sleepwalking through your one precious life, to realize that time is the only resource that actually matters, and you're spending it like you're a billionaire when you might only have pennies left. How much time did you waste yesterday? Be honest. How many hours scrolling through nothing? How many minutes in meaningless conversations? How much time worrying, procrastinating, numbing yourself with distractions? Add it up. 3 hours, 4, 5. Now multiply that by 365 days. You just wasted weeks, maybe months of your life. And for what? For comfort? For entertainment? For avoiding the discomfort of doing something meaningful? Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Most people aren't living short lives. They're living long lives badly. They're living years that feel like nothing because nothing significant happens in them. They're breathing but not alive. They're existing but not living. And then they wonder why they feel empty. It's because they are. They're empty of purpose, empty of meaning, empty of anything that matters. Because they keep choosing the easy, the comfortable, the meaningless, over the hard, the uncomfortable, the meaningful. You need to understand something fundamental about time. It's the great equalizer. The billionaire and the beggar both get 24 hours. The genius and the fool both get the same days. Time is the only thing everyone has equally, and it's the thing most people waste most carelessly. You wouldn't throw money in the trash. You wouldn't pour out water in the desert. But you throw away hours like they're worthless. You pour out days like you have an infinite supply, and you don't. Here's what the Stoics did. They treated every day like it might be their last. Not in a fearful way, in an intentional way. Marcus Aurelius would ask himself every morning, if this were my last day, would I want to spend it this way? Seneca would review his day every evening and ask, did I waste this day? Did I spend it on what matters? Or did I fritter it away on nothing? They weren't morbid, they were awake, they were aware. They knew that life is short, and most of it is wasted if you're not paying attention. So let me ask you, if you knew you had 1 year to live, would you spend today the way you're spending it? Would you waste 3 hours scrolling? Would you put off that project? Would you avoid that difficult conversation? Would you settle for mediocrity? Would you stay in that relationship that's not right? Would you keep doing work you hate? Would you say tomorrow to your dreams? No. You'd wake up. You'd focus. You'd do what matters. You'd tell the truth. You'd love fully. You'd take the risk. You'd stop wasting time. But here's the thing. You don't have 1 year. You might. You might have 50, but you might have less. So why are you living like you have forever? Why are you putting off what matters? Why are you choosing comfort over meaning? Why are you scrolling your life away? This is your wake-up call. Starting today, you track your time like it's gold, because it is. It's more valuable than gold. It's your life in hourly increments. Every hour you spend, you're buying something with a piece of your life. What are you buying? Netflix binges, social media scrolling, worrying about things that don't matter? Or are you buying growth, connection, meaning, purpose, the person you want to become? Here's your new filter for everything. Is this worth dying for? Not literally, but is this worth spending part of your finite life on? That meeting that could be an email, is it worth an hour of your life? That argument about something petty, is it worth your peace and your time? That scroll session, is it worth 2 hours of the only life you'll ever have? When you start asking this question, everything becomes clear. Suddenly, you say no to more things. You cut out the waste. You protect your time like it's sacred, because it is. And here's what happens when you do this. When you start living like your time matters, like every day is precious, like you might not have tomorrow, you become present. You become focused. You become intentional. You stop half-assing everything and start fully committing to what matters. You stop spreading yourself thin across 1,000 meaningless things and start concentrating your energy on the few things that actually move your life forward. You stop existing and start living. The Stoics called this the view from above. They would imagine looking down at their life from space, seeing themselves as one person on one planet, with one brief moment in time. It gave them perspective. It showed them how small their petty concerns were, and how precious their limited time was. Try it. Imagine you're looking at your life from the outside. How much time are you wasting? How much energy are you spending on things that won't matter in a year, in a month, in a week? What would you tell yourself to focus on? What would you tell yourself to let go? You have today. That's it. That's all you're guaranteed. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow might not come. You have right now, this moment, this hour, this day. Stop living like you have forever. Stop putting off what matters. Stop wasting your one wild, precious, finite life on things that don't deserve it. Wake up. Pay attention. Spend your time on what matters, because time is running out. For all of us, and you can't buy it back. Comment: every day could be my last. I choose to live like it matters. Number 5. Silence is power. Noise is slavery. Your mind is so loud you can't hear yourself think. I'm not talking about external noise, though there's plenty of that. I'm talking about the constant internal noise. The endless stream of thoughts, worries, judgments, fantasies, regrets, plans, fears, desires. It never stops. You wake up and it's already chattering. You try to work and it's commentating. You try to sleep and it's reviewing and rehearsing. Your mind is like a television that's never turned off, stuck on the worst channel, and you've forgotten you have the remote. And then there's the external noise you're adding to it. The notifications, the news, the social media, the podcasts, the videos, the constant input. You fill every silence with sound, every moment of boredom with content, every second of potential stillness with stimulation. Why? Because you're afraid. You're afraid of what you might hear if things got quiet. You're afraid of what you might feel if you stopped distracting yourself. You're afraid of being alone with your own mind. But the Stoics knew something we've forgotten. Silence is where wisdom lives. Stillness is where power grows. It's in the quiet moments, when all the noise falls away, that you hear what actually matters. It's in the stillness that you find clarity. It's in the silence that you discover who you really are, beneath all the conditioning, all the opinions, all the chaos. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Think about that. Most of your suffering happens in your head. Most of your anxiety is about things that haven't happened and probably never will. Most of your stress comes from thoughts, not from actual reality. You're drowning in mental noise, in an internal storm of thoughts that you mistake for truth. And you keep adding external noise to avoid confronting the internal chaos. Here's what you need to understand. You cannot think clearly when your mind is full of noise. You cannot make good decisions when you're constantly stimulated. You cannot know yourself when you're always consuming other people's ideas. You cannot find your purpose when you're drowning in everyone else's agenda. You need silence. Real silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the absence of mental chatter. The stillness beneath the noise. The Stoics practiced regular withdrawal. They would take time in silence, in solitude, in stillness. Not because they were antisocial, but because they knew that power comes from within, and you can only access it when you're not constantly pulled outward. Marcus Aurelius would retreat into himself, finding what he called the inner citadel, that place of peace and clarity that exists beneath all the chaos. He knew that the world would always be noisy, always be chaotic, always be demanding. So he built a sanctuary inside himself that he could access any time. But what do? You wake up and immediately check your phone. Before you've even processed that you're awake, you're consuming other people's opinions, other people's lives, other people's problems. You're filling your mind with noise before you've even heard your own thoughts. Then all day, every spare moment, you fill the silence. Music in the car, podcasts while walking, TV while eating, phone while waiting. You're terrified of silence, terrified of being alone with yourself. And that terror is a signal. It's telling you something is wrong. Here's the truth. If you can't sit with yourself in silence for 15 minutes, you don't know yourself. If you need constant stimulation, constant distraction, constant noise, you're running from something, and whatever you're running from is running your life. The thoughts you won't face control you. The feelings you keep avoiding direct you. The silence you keep filling is full of answers you're afraid to hear. So here's what you do. You reclaim silence. Starting tomorrow, before you touch your phone, you sit in silence for 10 minutes. Just sit. Don't meditate. Don't journal. Don't do anything. Just sit with yourself. Let the thoughts come. Let them be loud at first. They will be. Your mind will scream for stimulation. It will throw every worry, every to-do, every random thought at you. Let it. Just watch. Just observe. Don't engage with the thoughts. Don't try to stop them. Just be present with the noise until it settles. And it will settle. Beneath all that chaos, there's stillness. Beneath all that noise, there's clarity. But you have to sit through the storm to find the calm. And throughout your day, you protect silence. You take a walk without headphones. You drive without music. You eat without screens. You create space for your own thoughts to emerge. You stop consuming long enough to create. You stop listening long enough to hear yourself. This isn't about becoming a monk. This is about reclaiming your sovereignty over your own mind. This is about not being a puppet controlled by every notification, every algorithm, every dopamine hit. Here's what you'll discover in the silence. You'll hear what you actually think, not what you're supposed to think. You'll feel what you actually feel, not what you're told to feel. You'll know what you actually want, not what advertising convinced you to want. You'll remember who you actually are beneath all the roles, all the expectations, all the noise. And that knowing, that clarity, that's where your power is. That's where your purpose lives. That's where the voice of wisdom speaks. The world will always be loud. Society will always be demanding. Your phone will always be pinging. But you can build an inner sanctum that remains untouched by all of it. A place of stillness that you can access regardless of external chaos. That's mastery, that's freedom. Not the freedom to escape reality, but the freedom to remain centered while reality swirls around you. And from that place of silence, from that place of clarity, your actions become powerful. Because they're not reactions anymore. They're not responses to noise. They're intentional choices aligned with who you actually are and what actually matters. You stop being blown around by every wind of circumstance. You stop being manipulated by every ping and notification. You become unmovable, unshakable, sovereign. Type this: I find my power in silence, not in noise. Number 6. Your suffering is self-inflicted. Stop arguing with reality. You're in pain, not because of what happened, but because of how you're thinking about what happened. Not because of reality, but because of your story about reality. You're suffering because you keep arguing with what is. Something didn't go your way, and instead of accepting it and moving forward, you're fighting it in your mind. You're replaying it. You're wishing it were different. You're asking, why me? You're creating an internal war between what is and what you think should be. And that war, that's your suffering. Marcus Aurelius understood this perfectly. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Read that again. Your pain is not because of the thing. It's because of your thoughts about the thing. And you can change your thoughts. Right now, this moment, you have that power. You've always had it. But instead, you keep choosing to suffer. Here's what you do. Something bad happens. You lose a job. A relationship ends. You fail at something important. And immediately, your mind starts the story. This is terrible. This shouldn't have happened. This is unfair. This ruins everything. Why is this happening to me? And with every thought, you're adding fuel to the fire. You're taking one moment of pain and stretching it into hours, days, weeks, years of suffering. The event is over. It's done. But you keep it alive through your thinking. But the event itself? It's neutral. It's just something that happened. You losing your job is not good or bad. It's a fact. What makes it painful is your interpretation. Your story that it means you're a failure. Your belief that it shouldn't have happened. Your resistance to what is. The relationship ending is not inherently tragic. It's your thoughts about what it means, what you lost, what should have been different. The failure is not the problem. It's your interpretation of failure, your attachment to how things should have gone. Epictetus, remember, was a slave. He was literally enslaved, his freedom taken from him. And yet he found peace. How? By not arguing with reality. He couldn't control his external circumstances, but he could control his response. He could accept what was and focus on his inner freedom. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Not sometimes, always, every single time. So what does this mean for you? It means you stop fighting reality. Something happened? Accept it. It's done. It's real. You arguing with it in your mind doesn't change it. It just makes you suffer. You lose the job? Accept it. The job is gone. Fighting that fact, wishing it weren't true, blaming yourself or others, none of that brings the job back. What does acceptance give you? It gives you clarity. It gives you power. It gives you the ability to ask, okay, this happened. Now what? What can I do from here? This is not about being passive. This is not about not caring. This is about being strategic with your mental energy. You only have so much. You can spend it wishing reality were different, or you can spend it responding effectively to reality as it is. The Stoics chose response over resistance. They chose acceptance over argument. Not because they didn't care, but because they cared about what they could actually influence. Their thoughts, their actions, their character. Every moment you spend in resistance is a moment of suffering. This shouldn't be happening, but it is happening. This isn't fair, but it happened anyway. I don't deserve this, but here it is. Your concepts of should, fair, deserve, they're all stories. They're all judgments. They're all optional. The reality is, this happened. That's it. That's the only truth. Everything else is your interpretation, and your interpretation is causing your suffering. Here's the practice. When something unwanted happens, you pause before you add the story. You notice the facts separate from your interpretation. Fact: I didn't get the promotion. Interpretation: this means I'm not good enough. See the difference? The fact is neutral. The interpretation causes suffering. Once you see this distinction, you have power. You can choose a different interpretation. Or, better yet, you can drop interpretation entirely and just deal with facts. Fact: the relationship ended. Now what? What action do I take? Interpretation: I'm unlovable. I'll never find anyone. I wasted years. I should have done things differently. Suffering: endless suffering from stories that may not even be true. But you believe them. You feed them. You keep them alive. And they poison your present moment. The present moment is actually fine. Right now, as you listen to these words, are you okay? Right this second? Not your thoughts about yesterday or tomorrow. Right now. Probably. You're fine. You're breathing. You're here. The suffering is in your head. It's in your thoughts about the past or future. It's in your stories about what things mean. But the present moment? Usually it's workable. Usually it's okay. This is what the Stoics knew. Most suffering is mental. Most pain is self-inflicted through thinking. So you practice acceptance. Not acceptance as defeat. Acceptance as power. This happened. I accept it. I don't like it. But I accept that it's real. I accept that it's done. I accept that I cannot change the past. And from that acceptance, I now have all my power available to deal with what is, rather than wasting it fighting what was or what should have been. This is freedom. This is peace. Not the peace of everything going your way. The peace of being okay regardless of how things go. And here's the deepest truth. Reality doesn't care about your opinions. Life doesn't care about your shoulds. The universe is not asking your permission. Things will happen that you don't want. Things will not go according to plan. People will disappoint you. You will fail. You will lose things. You will experience pain. That's guaranteed. But suffering? Suffering is optional. Suffering is what you add through resistance. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. So choose differently. When something unwanted happens, stop arguing. Stop resisting. Stop creating elaborate stories about what it means. Just accept. This happened. This is real. This is what I'm working with now. And then focus all your energy on your response. What can I learn? What can I do? How can I grow from this? Where do I go from here? That's power. That's wisdom. That's the Stoic way. Write this. I stop arguing with reality and start responding to it. Number 7. Build your character in private, not your image in public. Let me tell you something that will change your life if you really hear it. Who you are when no one is watching is who you actually are. Everything else is performance. The version of you that works hard when the boss is around but slacks off when they're not. That's not someone with a bad boss. That's someone with a weak character. The version of you that is kind and patient in public but cruel and short-tempered with family, that's not someone who's tired. That's someone who values image over integrity. The version of you that talks about discipline and hard work on social media but can't get out of bed or keep a commitment in private. That's not someone building a brand. That's someone building a lie. Epictetus said, "First, learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." But you're doing the opposite. You're speaking about who you want to appear to be, while your actions in private reveal who you actually are. You're crafting an image, curating a persona, building a facade, and it's exhausting, and it's empty. And deep down, you know it's fake. We live in a culture of performance. Everything is for show. Every workout needs to be posted. Every achievement needs to be announced. Every struggle needs to be shared. You're not having experiences anymore. You're creating content. You're not living your life. You're documenting your life so other people think you're living a good life. You're so busy building your image that you've forgotten to build your character. And character, real character, is built in private. Think about what you do when you're completely alone, when no camera is on, when no one will know, when you won't get credit, when there's no social validation coming. Who are you then? Do you still do the hard thing? Do you still keep your commitments to yourself? Do you still act with integrity? Or does all your discipline disappear the moment there's no audience? That's the test. That's where truth lives. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, kept a private journal. Not for publication, not for his image. For himself. To examine his character. To hold himself accountable. To remind himself of who he wanted to be. No one read it during his lifetime. He wasn't building a brand. He was building his soul. He knew that real work happens internally, privately, quietly. But what are you doing? You're doing the workout, but only if you can post about it. You're reading the book, but only so you can add it to your reading list. You're working on your goals, but really, you're working on your story about your goals. You're so concerned with how things look that you've lost track of how things actually are. You're performing discipline instead of being disciplined. You're performing success instead of building it. You're performing growth instead of growing. Here's the brutal truth. Your private behavior is your real behavior. Your public behavior is just marketing. And if there's a gap between the two, if who you are in private doesn't match who you pretend to be in public, you're living a lie. And you can feel it. That emptiness, that sense that something's off, that feeling that you're an imposter. It's because you are. Not because you're not capable, but because you're not being honest. You're playing a character instead of becoming one. The Stoics had a concept called living in accordance with nature. What does that mean? It means being the same person in every context. It means your values don't change based on who's watching. It means your standards don't drop when no one will know. It means integrity, which literally means wholeness. Being whole, being integrated, being one person all the way through. Not a different person in every situation. So here's what changes today. You stop performing and start being. You stop worrying about what things look like and start focusing on what things are. You stop seeking external validation and start building internal integrity. You do the right thing when no one is watching. You keep your commitments to yourself first. You build your character in the dark so it shines in the light. This means when you say you're going to wake up at 5 a.m., you do it, even when you could hit snooze and no one would know. When you commit to a workout, you do it, even if you never post about it. When you promise yourself you'll work on your goals, you do the work, even if it takes years before anyone notices. When you decide to be patient, kind, disciplined, you are those things in private, especially in private, because that's where it actually counts. Here's what happens when you do this. You build real confidence. Not the fake confidence that comes from likes and validation. Real confidence that comes from knowing you keep your word to yourself. You build self-respect. Not because of what you've achieved, but because you're becoming a person of integrity. You build trust with yourself. You know that when you commit, you follow through, and that self-trust is the foundation of everything. And ironically, when you stop trying to build an image and start building character, people notice. When you stop performing and start being, it shows. Authenticity is magnetic. Integrity is powerful. Real work produces real results. But you can't fake it. You can't pretend your way to character. You have to build it, one private choice at a time, one moment when no one's watching, one decision to do the right thing, even when it costs you, even when it's hard, even when you get no credit. So ask yourself, who are you when you're alone? Who are you when you won't get caught? Who are you when there's no reward, no recognition, no validation? That person. That's who you really are. And if you don't like what you see, if there's a gap between your private behavior and your public image, then you have work to do. Not on your social media, on yourself, not on your image, on your character, not in public, in private. Because at the end of your life, no one cares about your follower count. No one remembers your posts. What matters is who you became, what you built inside yourself, the integrity you maintained when it was hard, the character you forged when no one was watching, the person you were when there was no audience. That's your legacy. That's what lasts. That's what's real. Comment, I build my character in private, not my image in public. The path of the Stoic is not the easy path. It's not the comfortable path. It's not the path of shortcuts and quick wins and viral moments. It's the path of discipline, of discomfort, of mastery over yourself, of taking responsibility for your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. It's the path of accepting what you cannot control and taking full ownership of what you can. It's the path of treating time as sacred and building character in silence. It's the path of warriors, of philosophers, of the few who refuse to sleepwalk through life. You see, everything we've talked about today, it all comes back to one central truth. You have more power than you think, but only over yourself. You cannot control the world. You cannot control other people. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control your response. You can control your effort. You can control your character. You can control whether you choose comfort or growth. You can control whether you react from emotion or respond from principle. You can control whether you waste your time or spend it wisely. And that control, that sovereignty over yourself, that's the only real power that exists. The Stoics weren't trying to build perfect lives. They were trying to build excellent characters. They weren't trying to avoid all pain. They were trying to respond to pain with wisdom. They weren't trying to control outcomes. They were trying to control their integrity, their virtue, their inner citadel. And in doing so, they became unbreakable. Not because nothing bad happened to them. Everything bad happened: war, plague, betrayal, loss. But they remained whole because they built something inside themselves that external circumstances couldn't touch. That's what's available to you. Not a life without problems. A character strong enough to handle any problem. Not a life without pain. A soul wise enough to transform pain into growth. Not a life without challenges. A spirit disciplined enough to rise to any challenge. This is what these 7 laws offer you. Not comfort, but strength. Not ease, but excellence. Not a soft life, but a meaningful one. Think about where you were when this video started. Think about the cycle you were in, the comfort addiction, the emotional reactivity, the wasted time, the noise, the suffering you were creating, the gap between who you are and who you present. If you're honest, really honest, you knew something was wrong. You could feel it, that emptiness, that sense that you're not living up to your potential, that knowledge that you're capable of more, but you keep choosing less. But now you know what to do. You know that discomfort is the forge, that your emotions are visitors, not masters, that control only what you can control, that time is bleeding out, that silence is power, that suffering is self-inflicted, that character is built in private. These aren't just ideas. These are practices. These are daily choices. This is a way of life. And here's what I need you to understand. Knowledge alone changes nothing. You can watch this video, feel inspired for 10 minutes, and tomorrow be exactly the same person. That's what most people do. They collect information like it's transformation. They consume wisdom like it's growth, but it's not. Growth is application. Growth is doing it even when you don't feel like it. Growth is choosing the hard path today and tomorrow and the day after that until it becomes who you are. So the question is, are you going to act? Or are you going to go back to comfortable? Because comfortable is still there. The algorithm is still ready to feed you distractions. The easy path is still available. The soft life is still an option. You can close this video and nothing changes. Or you can decide right now that this is the moment. This is the line. This is when you stop being the person you've been and start becoming the person you're meant to be. Marcus Aurelius, on his deathbed, was asked if he had any regrets. You know what he said? He said he wished he had started living according to philosophy sooner. The most powerful man in Rome, who spent decades practicing Stoicism, wished he had started earlier. Don't be the person who looks back with that regret. Don't be the person who knew what to do but kept putting it off. Don't be the person who watched videos about discipline but never became disciplined. Start today. Start now. When this video ends, you make one choice aligned with who you want to become. Just one. You take one cold shower. You do one workout. You sit in one moment of silence. You keep one commitment to yourself. You control one emotional reaction. You spend 1 hour on what matters. One choice. And then tomorrow, one more. And the day after, one more. Not because you feel like it. Because you decided. Because you're becoming someone who does what they said they'd do. Someone who values character over comfort. Someone who walks the Stoic path. And yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, you're going to want to quit. Yes, there will be days when you fail, when you fall back into old patterns, when comfort looks so appealing. That's expected. That's part of the path. The Stoics didn't expect perfection. They expected effort. They expected you to get back up. They expected you to keep trying. Seneca failed. Marcus Aurelius had bad days. Epictetus struggled. But they kept showing up. They kept choosing growth over comfort. And that persistence, that daily commitment that transformed them from regular people into legends whose words still echo 2,000 years later. You have that same opportunity. Not to become famous, not to be remembered for centuries, but to transform yourself, to break free from the addiction to comfort, to master your emotions, to spend your time wisely, to build real character, to become someone you respect when you're alone, to live a life of meaning, of purpose, of integrity. That's available to you, right now, today, this moment. Remember what we started with? You're addicted to comfort. And that addiction is destroying your potential. But addiction can be broken. Cycles can be ended. Transformation is possible. Not easy, not comfortable, but possible. And the method is Stoic discipline. Daily practice, consistent choice, uncomfortable action, building character when no one's watching, controlling what you can, accepting what you can't, using your time like it's precious, finding power in silence, taking responsibility for your suffering, living with integrity. This is the path. ancient but timeless, simple but profound, hard but rewarding. And it's calling to you. That's why you watch this video. That's why you're still here. That ancient warrior inside you, the one buried under years of comfort and distraction, it's waking up. It's remembering. It's ready. So take that first step. Make that first choice. Leave a comment below with your commitment. Tell the universe and yourself who you're choosing to become. Write one of the affirmations we practiced today. Tell me which law hit you hardest. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video if it sparked something in you. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this path. But most importantly, when you close this video, do one hard thing. Take one action aligned with the person you want to be. Because that's how transformation starts. Not with perfect conditions. Not with motivation. With one choice, one step, one moment of discipline over comfort. The Stoics are watching from history. They're asking, will you join us? Will you walk this path? Will you choose growth over comfort? Will you become who you're capable of becoming? The answer is in your next choice, your next action, your next moment. Choose wisely, warrior. Your life depends on it. Comment your truth below. Like, share, and subscribe. And keep walking the Stoic path. This is just the beginning.